On a crisp July morning 6 years ago, Sarah Brennan strapped her 2-year-old son, Ethan, into his hiking carrier and set out for what should have been a routine day hike through the Rocky Mountains. Neither of them ever came home. The initial search was massive. Rangers combed every trail, checked every shelter, followed every lead. They found nothing, no bodies, no clues, no trace of the experienced hiker and her toddler. After months of searching, the case was classified as a tragic accident. Another reminder of how quickly the mountains can claim the unprepared. But 6 years later, a team of researchers studying geothermal activity in the area would make a discovery. That would shatter that theory and uncover a truth more horrifying than anyone imagined. Mark Brennan was struggling through quarterly reports when his phone rang. The Colorado area code made his stomach tighten. After 6 years. No one called about Sarah and Ethan anymore. "Mr. Brennan, this is Detective Patricia Chen with the Park County Sheriff's Office. We've made a discovery that requires your immediate attention." The coffee mug slipped from Mark's hands as the detective explained. Researchers had found remains in Morning Glory Pool, a pristine hot spring near the Cascade Trail where his family had vanished. Along with the remains, they'd recovered Sarah's backpack, her boots, and her wedding ring. "Both of them?" Mark asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We need to discuss this in person. Can you fly out today?" Within hours, Mark was on a plane to Colorado, his mind racing. Sarah knew those trails better than anyone. She was obsessive about safety, especially with Ethan. How had she ended up in a boiling hot spring, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, that would have killed her instantly? Morning Glory Pool looked exactly as Mark remembered. Perfect circle of brilliant colors radiating from a deep blue center. But now it was surrounded by investigation equipment and recovery teams working methodically around the perimeter. Dr. Emily Reeves, the lead researcher, approached with mud-stained clothes and haunted eyes. "We were taking core samples when our magnetometer detected metal at depth. The backpack frame triggered our instruments. Inside the evidence tent, Mark's world collapsed. Sarah's purple backpack frame, corroded but unmistakable. Her custom hiking boots, her car keys, her titanium wedding ring with their inscription, 'To the summit and back, M and S.' The position of items suggests your wife entered the spring fully clothed with all her gear." Detective Chen explained carefully. "That's highly unusual for an accidental fall. But where was Ethan? No child carrier, no tiny boots, no sippy cup. Of the dozens of items Sarah always packed for their son, if both had entered the spring, we'd expect to find evidence of both," Chen continued. "The fact that we're only finding adult-related items suggests your son wasn't with your wife when she died." For the first time in 6 years, Mark felt something. He'd forbidden himself to feel hope. The case was reopened as a potential homicide. Search teams spread across the mountain, checking every trail shelter, every maintenance shed, every place a mother and child might have sought refuge. Ranger Tom Mitchell proved invaluable to the investigation. A 15-year veteran of the park service, he knew every trail, every shelter, every hiding spot in the mountains. He'd even been on duty the day Sarah and Ethan disappeared, maintaining the backcountry shelters. "I remember your wife from the trail registers," Mitchell told Mark, as they hiked toward the remote shelters. "Always signed in properly, noted her expected return time. The kind of hiker we wish everyone would be." They searched 3 shelters that day, looking for any trace of the missing family. At each location, Mitchell shared his detailed knowledge of the trail system. His memories of that July day 6 years ago when unexpected weather had moved through the area. It was at the most remote shelter, Avalanche Creek, that they found the first real break in the case. A search of the park's administrative offices yielded a shocking discovery. Sarah's compass necklace and her backup wedding ring, hidden in an old employee locker that had belonged to Jake Morrison, a seasonal worker who'd left abruptly in 2019. Jake Morrison, mid-20s, quiet, described by colleagues as forgettable. He'd worked the trails for 2 seasons before disappearing without notice, claiming he'd found work in Utah, but there was no record of him anywhere since leaving the park. "We're putting out a nationwide alert," Detective Chen assured Mark. "Every agency in the country will be looking for him." The discovery transformed the investigation. Morrison had worked the Upper Loop Trail the day Sarah and Ethan disappeared, the same trail that would have taken them past Morning Glory Pool. He'd requested that specific assignment, trading shifts with another worker. Finally, they had a suspect. Jake Morrison had encountered Sarah and Ethan on the trail, killed Sarah, hidden her body in the hot spring, and taken Ethan. The question was, where had he been hiding for 6 years, and was Ethan still alive? That night, Mark received an unexpected email from Ranger Mitchell. The subject line read, "Information about Jake Morrison. I've been going through old files and found some concerning items about Morrison." The email read, "I'm in Denver tonight for a meeting. Could I stop by? I have work logs that show Morrison's assignments the week your family disappeared." Something felt wrong, but Mark's desperation for answers overrode his instincts. When Mitchell arrived with his folder of documents, Mark welcomed him in and offered coffee. The ranger's evidence was compelling. Work schedules showing Morrison had specifically requested the assignment that put him on Sarah's trail, but as Mark studied the documents, his vision began to blur. The coffee mug slipped from his numb fingers. "I'm truly sorry about this, Mark," Mitchell said calmly. "You just had to mention your concerns to the detective, didn't you? I saw her making notes about checking my background." As consciousness faded, Mark heard the words that would haunt him. "You're going to see your son again, Mark. Isn't that what you wanted?" Mark woke up bound and gagged in a remote cabin, his head throbbing from whatever Mitchell had given him. The ranger sat nearby, still in his uniform, looking as calm as if they were sharing coffee at the station. "My wife, Rebecca, and I had been trying for children for 5 years, Mitchell began, his voice steady. 3 miscarriages. The last one nearly killed her. The depression afterward. She attempted suicide twice. The story unfolded like a nightmare. That July morning, Mitchell had been checking shelters when Sarah and Ethan took refuge from an unexpected storm. They'd spent the night at Avalanche Creek Shelter, trusting the friendly park ranger. "I called Rebecca on the satellite phone," Mitchell continued. "Told her about this beautiful little boy whose mother couldn't take care of him properly. Rebecca was so excited for the first time in months, she sounded alive. When Sarah refused to give up her son, Mitchell had made his choice. He'd killed her at the shelter, then moved her body to Morning Glory Pool 3 nights later during his regular patrol. The hot spring would destroy any evidence, and if remains were ever found, they'd be too degraded to reveal the truth. I kept her jewelry as insurance," Mitchell said. Jake Morrison was perfect, wrong place, wrong time, wrong personality, the ideal fall guy. But where was Ethan? "Rebecca's bringing him now," Mitchell said, checking his watch. "Along with the supplies we'll need to deal with you. His name is Owen now. He's happy, Mark, good student, loves soccer, wants to be a park ranger like his dad. He doesn't remember you or Sarah. The sound of an approaching vehicle made Mitchell move to the window. Through the glass, Mark could see a truck pulling up, and his heart nearly stopped at the sight of a young boy in the passenger seat, his son, alive, 8 years old now, with dyed hair and no memory of his real parents. Rebecca Mitchell entered, carrying a duffel bag that clinked ominously tarps, chemicals, shovels. They'd done this before, Mark realized with growing horror. A hiker who'd recognized Ethan from missing person posters had met the same fate. "We should have done this years ago," Rebecca said coldly, when he started asking questions about the other woman. Outside, Ethan now called Owen sat in the truck with his iPad, unaware his adoptive parents were preparing to murder his real father. The same people who'd killed his mother were about to make him a complete orphan. But Detective Chen had been monitoring Mark's phone after his call about Mitchell. When he'd gone silent, she'd traced his location. "Tom Mitchell," her voice boomed through a megaphone. "This is the police. We have the cabin surrounded." What followed was chaos. Mitchell grabbed his rifle while Rebecca tried to reach their son. Tear gas filled the cabin as tactical officers stormed the building. Through the confusion, Mark could hear his son's terrified screams from outside. When the smoke cleared, the Mitchells were in custody, and Mark was face to face with the boy he'd been searching for 6 years. Ethan sat on the ambulance bumper, wrapped in a blanket, his whole body shaking. When he saw Mark approaching, he shrank back in fear.
"That's
him," the boy whispered to the officer beside him. "That's the man they had tied up. Is he a bad person?"